taking you to Budapest, the capital of Hungary. We are going to focus on the Old Town Castle District up on top of the hill. This funicular takes you up the hill to the old part of town, up to Buda. And here we have the old royal palace and the old town, the Hilton Hotel, the view of the chain bridge crossing the Danube River down below. You really should go on up this funicular when you're visiting Budapest. It gives you quite a sight. You can also get up here by public bus from downtown by taking bus number 16 from Deek Square, or you might come up with an organized tour group as well. No matter how you do it, be sure to visit the old castle district. It's the heart and soul of Budapest. It's the oldest part of town. You could actually spend most of a day visiting this fascinating neighborhood with the museums, with the monuments like Fisherman's Bastion and the restaurants and the many little back streets. It makes a fascinating stroll that will certainly take you several hours at least to see it properly. And we start our walk at the Fisherman's Bastion, which gives you a nice vantage point to look out over the city. This is in the old town. It's right next to the Hilton Hotel. And from here we have a great view of the Hungarian Parliament. It was constructed about 100 years ago. The buildings of the Castle District are much older than that. It dates back to about the 13th century. Some of the earliest settlements of Budapest are right here. It was a fortified hilltop. Walls built around the castle to protect it from the Mongolian invaders and others. The buildings we see today in the Castle District were constructed around the 18th century during the time of Austrian occupation and influence. Matthias Church is one of the most recognizable symbols of Buda, constructed in the Gothic style back in the 13th century. When the Turks occupied town in the 16th century, it became the main mosque. So the buildings lining these little narrow lanes date back to about 200 years ago, built in the Baroque style. However, they were largely destroyed during World War II, and since then it's been rebuilt so nicely that you would never suspect that these are actually new buildings. Constructed in the old style on the original foundations. A castle in the background, towering over this town square. So it's a nice place to come and wander. This area was first built up in the Middle Ages, perhaps 1,000 years ago, and became the fortified residence of the king. But then the Turks took over in 1541 and stayed 140 years.
So these buildings that you will see as we will walk, they are mainly built after the Turkish times, so in the 17th century, but on the foundation, on the basic, of the medieval 13th, 14th century houses. You will see that, you will notice that the buildings, they have different measure, different size, because during the medieval times, people had to pay tax after the width of the houses. So wealthy family, they could afford a wide house. And in here, you can see it's a very wide one, so that probably belonged to a wealthy family. Almost in every building you will find engraved sentences saying műemlék, which means a heritage or landmark, so it's a protected building. Here you can see, for example, they found the original decoration on the facade of that old building from the 15th century. This is called the Holy Trinity Square because of this Trinity Column, which is in the middle, which was erected in 1711 by those who survived the plague, the pest, the disease, which was all over in Europe in the 17th, 18th century. They erected this Rococo-style monument or memorial to thank God in 1711. The most important building is the church, the Mathias Church, which original name, official name, is the Church of Our Lady. It was a Gothic church, a Catholic church, But during the centuries, each king had rebuilt the church in different styles, in classical, in Baroque, in Renaissance. And that's why it changed, and now it's very eclectic, very, very mixed in styles. The church was built at the same time as the royal palace, the original one. So in the middle of the 13th century, first in the Gothic style, of course. But during the centuries, it was rebuilt several times in several styles. For example, during the Turkish occupation, the Turks turned it to a mosque. They painted all the walls white, so it served as a mosque. Then it was rebuilt in the 18th, 19th century, but also during the 15th century we had a king, King Matthias, King Matthew. He was also called the Renaissance king because under his reign, Italian Renaissance flourished. He invited Italian humanists, architects, artists, and that's why. And he had the church rebuilt in the Italian Renaissance style, and ever since it is called the Mathias Church because officially this is the Church of Our Lady. So on the main altar you will not find a Matthew painting or statue because he wasn't a saint. There will be Virgin Mary on the main altar. The latest renovation of the church took place in the 19th century, and that's when those ceramic tiles that on the roof, those are the painted ceramics which are produced in a porcelain factory. This is a coronation and also a wedding church. So for example, King Matthew, he had his both weddings here in the 15th century. And Francis Joseph, the Habsburg emperor, the King of Hungary, he was crowned here in 1867, together with Queen Elizabeth. When Hungary was occupied by the Turks turned it to a mosque. So for 150 years, the church was a mosque. They painted all the walls white, and they threw out all the statues. So when we walk in, and I would like to show you the interior, all the wall paintings and the interior decoration is all late 19th century. Let's walk into it, and I'll show you a few things in the church which has some parts from the 14th century that remained, but I'll show you that. This side entrance, for example, is original from the 14th century, the Virgin Mary in heaven. In the church, now you can see the decoration on the walls, which are from the 19th century, because they were all painted white by the Turks. So these decorations are from the 19th century renovation. It was done during that renovation. The church is also a coronation church and a wedding church. In the church there are beautiful stained glass windows, and during the Second World War these stained glass windows were taken away and kept in the basement to protect them, and only after the war they put them back to their original places. So Virgin Mary statue you can see on the main altar. We are very lucky because now they play the organ.
The church has excellent acoustics and is often the scene of evening concerts. So look out for the schedule while you're visiting Budapest. Maybe you'll get lucky as we did here. And then as we walked around the church, we saw the different aspects, the Loreto Chapel with its Italian-style Renaissance statue of the Madonna, and various other side chapels inside. And then we came upon yet some more music, so we stopped everything and listened to this choir.